take your fears, your insecurities, your worries, you roll them all up into a ball, you turn those son bitches sideways and stick them straight up, then candy out!
Pick your goal and stick fucking to it. You wishy-washy motherfuckers. I can't fucking stand you.
I wanted to make sure that out of the 24 hours of the day, that I don't waste one single hour. Those hours were too precious. And so there I just want to tell people, don't give me this thing, I have a difficult time with the time and I don't have time for this and I don't have that. You have time. You make the time.
And now, welcome to the Be Informed, Live Fit podcast, sponsored by FitnessInformant.com.
About how I triple my fan base, net worth bench. Can't say there's worse, bitch. Do something, fuck it, I prove something. Don't switch up, should've made your best first, bitch.
All right, guys, what's going on? Welcome inside episode 35 of the Be Informed, Live Fit podcast, sponsored by Raise Energy. I am your host, FitnessInformant.com, Fitness Informant founder, CEO, Ryan Buckeye. Thanks for stopping by, checking it out. Stoked about this episode. Just fucking stoked about this episode. Listen, I have had such a great opportunity since starting Fitness Informant, since starting this podcast, to really sit down and talk with so many amazing people within fitness, within nutrition, people that I've looked up to for a long time. For example, Jay Cutler, 4-time Mr. Olympia champion, who's on this podcast, on this show. And Jay and I exchange text almost on a daily basis now. I mean, it's unbelievable. My first guest ever, 8-time, the greatest bodybuilder of all time. I don't even think it's arguable. The greatest bodybuilder of all time, Ronnie Coleman, was the first guest on this podcast. Guys like Chris Gethin, Aaron Singerman, Mark Glazer, Branch Warren. I mean, I could go on and on about the amazing people that I have had the opportunity to share conversation with for you people listening to this podcast. And my goal when I started FI was to make it educational. Tell the story that people don't know. Because if you own a brand, for example, hearing that story of behind the scenes, behind the brand, or beyond the brand, as some might say, is extremely important as a consumer, I believe, because you need to know, or you should know, what that story is and how that brand was built and why they do the things that they do for you as the consumer. And on today's show, it is as real of a story as you're going to get, as we welcome in the legend. Literally, he is a legend in sports nutrition, in bodybuilding, Rich Gaspari from Gaspari Nutrition. Now, Gaspari Nutrition strikes a chord with so many people. Me, personally, nostalgia. Myofusion was one of the first proteins that I've ever taken in my life. Cookies and cream to this day is still my favorite cookies and cream flavor of all time. I've not had one like that ever. But Super Pump, Size On, Glycofuse. I mean, there are so many awesome Gaspari Nutrition products that I've used. And I know those of you listening to this podcast are thinking probably the pro hormones that you've used and how strong some of those were and how effective some of those were. And that's really how Gaspari Nutrition built their empire and built their brand. That's what Rich did. Rich was a competitive bodybuilder, suffered an injury, got tired of using other people's supplements, and started making supplements through manufacturers, selling them out of the home of his mom because he lived with his parents. And it's just a remarkable story. I'm not going to sit here and tell you Rich's story because Rich is going to tell it to you here on the podcast. But I will tell you this. We get into the highest of highs, the Porsche, the Ferrari driving Rich Gaspari, and the lows of the lows, the bankruptcy and selling of his baby brand Gaspari Nutrition. We talk about it all. We hold back nothing. And that's really ultimately what I try to accomplish with this show is, listen, there are hard questions that people don't want to answer. There are hard questions that people don't want to ask. Some of these guests will go on other podcasts, and that podcast host will be afraid to ask the hard questions, the tough questions. That's not me. I'm asking those tough questions. I asked Rich Gaspari about his divorce. Okay, his divorce was one very tough. It's tough for anybody, right? Anybody listening to this who's been through it before knows how extremely exhausting and how tough that can be. And so to be able to actually have someone like me, who, quite frankly, listen, I'm a very humble guy, but in the fitness industry, I have in the last 2 years built up a reputation, but I'm still in the scheme of things a nobody. Really, I am. I'm a nobody compared to somebody like Rich Gaspari. So to have someone like me, a fucking nobody, ask Rich Gaspari about his divorce and how that affected him in terms of his business and his life decisions takes balls. And I'm happy I asked those questions, and I'm even more ecstatic that he answers those questions, because I think after today's podcast, what you're going to take away is a better appreciation and understanding of Rich Gaspari and Gaspari Nutrition in general as it moves forward in 2019. Because believe me, Gaspari Nutrition is back. It's not going anywhere. They have some really cool, innovative products coming out to market, and we have an opportunity to talk about that here on today's show. So I'm stoked up for you guys to listen to Rich Gaspari and hear the Gaspari Nutrition story. It's a phenomenal podcast. Share it with your friends. If this is the first time listening and you enjoy the podcast, hit that subscribe button, whether you're listening on iTunes, Spotify, watching via YouTube, or any other podcast platform. If there's an opportunity to leave us a review, we'd love that. That helps out the algorithm to make sure more people reach and understand and discover the Be Informed, Live Fit podcast. And make sure you follow us on our social media channels, obviously Facebook, Instagram. We're on Twitter and Snapchat as well. This week's Pumped Up segment of the week is being brought to you by Built Fast Formula's award-winning VasoBlitz Pump Igniter. Not only is VasoBlitz the winner of our 2018 Shield of Excellence Supplement Award for Best Pump Product, it is also the first nitrate formula fully disclosed with 30 servings, not scoops. When VasoBlitz is consumed daily, even on your off days, it will last you a full month. All this for only $34.99. And as a special offer to our listening or viewing audience, use coupon code INFORMANT and save 15%. I'm pumped up about our 2019 Transformation Challenge. For those of you who have been following us for a long time know, last year between the 4th of July and Labor Day, we did an $8,000 transformation challenge in which we selected one winner from the male and one winner from the female sort of divisions or groups. I didn't know going into that what to expect, but participation was amazing. I appreciate the support from the brands. And now that we ourselves are a bigger brand, we are putting together the pieces for this year's 2019 Transformation Challenge, trying to make it the best one yet. Obviously, it's the second one, but it'll be super interesting to see kind of what we come up with. It may be similar to what it was last year. Obviously, the prize giveaways, we may do a first and second runner-up, both in the male and female division, because quite frankly, like $8,000 in supplements is awesome, but it does take a long time to get through, especially when you're getting $4,000 each. So I'm pumped up to do this again because so many people participated. And even though there was only one winner in both the male and the female side of this, everybody that submitted their before and after pictures made some sort of change in a positive way. And I went through a lot of photos, and and I sat back and I thought to myself, when I was looking at those photos, like, wow, this little transformation challenge in which I am, having people submit pictures in their bathing suit or in their boxers. I mean, that's tough to do, but people did it because they were excited for the challenge. They were excited to make a change. They were excited to become better versions of themselves through the FI Transformation Challenge. So I was stoked to be able to do that last year. I'm stoked to be able to do it again this year because I think it's awesome. I think it's great when you get a community of people together that come over to our Self-Made Barbell Brigade group, and then they talk about these transformation challenges, and they post their pictures, and they get inspiration and motivation from other people. It's just so powerful. And it sounds cliche, and maybe when you're listening to this, you're like, God, who is this guy, right? Like, what kind of Kool-Aid is he drinking? I'm not drinking any fucking Kool-Aid, man. I've seen these transformations. Not from any pill, not from a drug, but from just working out, changing their daily routines and their habits into healthier habits and making sure that they're living better versions of themselves. Because keep this in mind, people. A transformation challenge is an 8-week challenge. That's a start, but you need to make a lifestyle change to make it lifelong, because ultimately, for me personally, having a 9-month-old at home, like I can't imagine being swiped off this face of the earth, man, and leaving her to be without me. I need to be here. I need to be here to support her and to make sure I can raise her into the daughter and into the human being that she should be. And she's going to make all those decisions herself, but it gives me an opportunity to be here and support her. So for me, that's really what I'm here for. Our Genius Moment of the Week this week is being brought to you by the Genius brand. The Genius brand offers high-quality supplements with scientifically proven, clinically dosed, all-natural ingredients. With a blatant disregard for profit margins, the Genius brand focuses on creating innovative, industry-leading wellness supplements to help you live an active, healthy, and long-lasting life. Supplement smarter today. Check out full reviews and brand news on the Genius brand over at fitnessinformant.com, a featured brand. The Genius Moment of the Week this week, and I talked about this actually on our Instagram story, but it's fact checking. And what I mean by that is influencers within fitness, and I'm one of them, right? I'm a culprit of this. I am a fitness influencer. But many fitness influencers in this space publish inaccurate information that's not factual. Obviously, that's the definition of inaccurate. On fitness or nutrition tips that are actually detrimental to your health. But they have such a large following that people just eat it up. I have always said to people watching, listening to this podcast, or who check our Instagram stories or our Facebook post, fact check me. Please, please fact check me. Listen, I know a lot. I do. I know a lot throughout the last 2.5 years of running this business and from the previous time I spent within sports nutrition and just my love and passion for fitness in general. So I know a lot. But I'll be the first to tell you I don't know everything. Oh, God, no. Every day I'm trying to learn something new. Every fucking day I am trying to learn something brand fucking new. Because the day you quit learning is the day you need to get the fuck out. So if you're watching Instagram stories for these fitness influencers and you hear something, instead of going and just implementing that shit right away, fact check them. There are a very few people on Instagram that I trust, that if they say something, I believe it to be true. And these people on Instagram that say these things that I trust are friends of mine. So that's why I trust them. I know them personally. People like, Adam Bisick, who was a guest on this podcast, 50,000 followers on social media. I trust what he says because he's one of the most intelligent coaches and one of the most intelligent trainers on the face of the earth. Guys like Drew Peters, who's an R&D scientist for GAT supplements now. I trust what he says because he has the same attitude as I do, a no bullshit attitude. I don't know necessarily if you call him a fitness influencer per se, but he's a person that I respect and I appreciate his insights. But I say that because brands now are coming out with sub-brands or lines under fitness influencers. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. That's actually can be a really good thing if that fitness influencer is actually educated. Take Julian Smith, for example, from Arms Race Nutrition or Core Nutritionals. We had Doug Miller on here. We had Kent Engel. They partnered with Julian Smith, who is a fitness influencer, to create Arms Race Nutrition. Julian's actually intelligent. I would say still fact check Julian. Fact check me. If I'm telling you to fact check me, I'm also telling you to fact check everybody else. But Julian is one doing it for the right reasons. You look at Arms Race Nutrition and you look at those labels, that's not bad product, people. That is not bad product at all. But for the most part, as a consumer, just as you should know what you're putting in your body when it comes to sports supplements or whatever you're doing, you should understand or have a better understanding of the advice that you're taking from these fitness influencers. Because just because they have 100,000+ followers on Instagram doesn't mean they know what the fuck they're talking about. Trust me, a lot of these people don't. They might look good, right? You might look the part. But that doesn't mean you can teach. You can coach. You should be giving advice. I look the part, but I went through training. I've learned so much to be able to give advice. I'm hesitant to give advice on stuff that I don't know about. So I don't. I go find out what that advice should be, and then I talk about it. Guys, girls, Rich Gaspari is coming up, and it's just, it's just so cool to have. I mentioned this in the opening, man. It is just so cool for me to be able to have these conversations with these people because they were OGs in this space, and he refers to himself as a legacy brand. Well, I'll tell you, 2019 Gaspari Nutrition is acting like anything but a legacy brand. They're acting more like a startup. I'm going to send it over to Rich because you guys need to hear the story. It's phenomenal. It's really a tale from, riches to rags, back to riches, hopefully. Here he is, Rich Gaspari.
The BAR Breakfast at the Ready is finally here. The world's first protein bar made with real cereal pieces from some of your favorite cereals and the best cereals of all time. This bar has 20 grams of protein, only 20 grams of carbohydrates, with 5 of them coming from sugar, and 4 grams of fat, 190 delicious calories that you can fit in at any time. Any person can take this bar, man, woman, child, whether you're working out, you're training to build muscle, or you just need a healthy snack throughout the day, the BAR is your solution. Go to redcon1.com and order the BAR Breakfast at the Ready right now.
With the amount of hard work that I put in, I need a reputable brand.
I absolutely love this stuff.
The energy is amazing. The pumps are ridiculous. The flavor is absolutely delicious.
I was blown away by the amount of energy, the muscle pump.
It keeps me going throughout the day.
Take your workouts. to the next level.
The energy was so crazy for me.
Really gives me the boost I'm needing in the morning.
You will train harder, you will see better pumps, you will go longer in the gym.
The quality of the ingredients makes a difference.
Try Rise, you're gonna love it, I guarantee it.
Their products are top of the range, and I'm very proud to be a part of Team Rice.
For the last 2 decades, we have been the best kept secret of the supplement industry. We've kept our heads down and worked. We pioneered full label transparency and full therapeutic doses because we believe that truly hard work requires truly effective tools. 2 decades is a long time to commit to one pursuit, but when you act with purpose and become centered in yourself, eventually you realize that you were born and bred for this. The things you once thought impossible, you now do every day. We don't like the easy way, it just doesn't feel right. We'll take the long, hard road over a shortcut any day. It takes longer, sure, but in the end, you know you earned it. And with the right team behind you, pushing yourself further than you've ever been would be just another afternoon doing what you love most.
I've spent most of my life chasing what's termed as unattainable. An obstacle in my path, I torment it. Any limitation trying to control my environment, I tame it. Any excuses, I transform into commitments. The haters, they're too small for me to even see. For 28 months before Cage Muscle even released, I broke myself against the will to identify, track, test, and trial the ultimate resources available in human existence to bring you something the world has never seen. Change is upon us. Don't justify your complacency. Evolve with me. Part animal, part machine. I'm Chris Gethin, and I am Cage Muscle.
All right, everybody, welcome back inside the Be Informed Live Fit podcast. It is an absolute pleasure to have this gentleman, this legend on my podcast, the Be Informed Live Fit podcast, Rich Gaspari. My man, you look as healthy today as you did 20 years ago in the pictures that lace Google Images, my friend. How are you?
Very, very good. I got to keep staying young. I'm actually expecting a baby.
Really?
In August, so
oh my God, I did not know that. I did not know that. Do you know what it's going to be, boy, girl?
Yeah, it's going to be a boy, so I'm having a boy.
Very cool. How many kids do you have now?
I have a stepson. He's 18. I have a daughter who's 12. So this is my son.
Yeah.
He'll carry the Gaspari name.
Your baby boy. That's awesome, dude. Congratulations. I had no clue. So that is very exciting news. That's the summer. So you got a lot of stuff going on, my man. I mean, you have. We're gonna
remodeling my entire house.
You're remodeling your entire brand too. I mean, we're gonna talk about all this.
Remodeling my entire brand. We're coming up with new products. Growing the brand back. As you know, this is a over 20-year-old brand that I started after I basically retired from competition.
Yeah.
And like I said, this brand's had its ups and downs, and I'm a type of guy, like when I competed in bodybuilding, that I never gave up and
sure.
Became one of the best in bodybuilding by the naysayers saying that I could never do it. And I'm still here. And same thing with this brand. It's going to continue on. And I'm excited about a lot of the new products that we are coming out with. New exciting ways, the way we're going to market the brand. Mm-hmm. So it's good stuff.
It's awesome. I mean, when I hear Gaspari, it's nostalgic in so many ways for me. It was one of the first brands that I took when I was introduced to sports nutrition and sports supplementation. I saw you 5 years ago at the Arnold, and it was like I was like in awe of you. Like you're walking around, or not, it was at the Olympia, and you were walking around. I was like, that's Rich Gaspari. Holy shit, you know? And here you are on the podcast and living color, and it's so cool. And I'm so excited to be able to hear your journey, because you are, like I mentioned in the opening, like a legend in this industry. Everybody that I talked to, Rich, about you, nobody had a bad thing to say. Everybody said that, I mean, you're a gentleman, you're a scholar, you've done so much good for this fitness and sports nutrition industry. Like, did you imagine 20 years ago starting Gaspari after you got done competing, like your legacy would be what it is today?
You know, really, I didn't know where, you know, that I was going to be in this place where, you know, I have now a legacy brand, that I was going to be one of the top brands. You know, when I started the brand over 20 years ago, you know, I just, I competed since I was, 13, 14 as a teenage bodybuilder, right into my mid 30, well, 32, 33 was my last competition until I got my injury. I started Gaspari when I was 35 years old. And when I started this, again, it was me starting this brand from scratch. People don't know that, you know, they say, oh, you were a famous bodybuilder. You know, you took yourself from being that famous bodybuilder, and then from there, you started this brand, right away got customers. It was far from that. When I started this brand, I don't know if you guys know, I injured myself in competition, where I was, you know, I did all these shows, and then what happened was my placing started getting lower. I started feeling really burnt out,
right.
You know, and my body showed it. Where when I was competing in my last years, you know, I could basically see that, you know, I had issues where, you know, certain body parts weren't popping as well. I didn't look the same. No matter how hard I trained, it looked like I just wasn't the Gaspari that made me, you know, famous for being this bodybuilder that, you know, popped. So I ended up, you know, taking a break and then coming back after a couple years. And I tried a couple pro shows. I was actually doing pretty well. I was on my way up, but at that moment when I was coming up, I was going against guys like Flex Wheeler, Ronnie Coleman. So it was a new changing of the guard. So I came up. I did one show in Canadian Pro. I came in 5th place behind like Milos Garchev, and then I was going to go into the Night of the Champions, which was then the New York Pro. It was called, and I came in, you know, top 6, and I was going to come back the following year into the New York Pro. I think it was 1997. And getting ready for that show, I was actually around 240. My normal weight in competition was anywhere between, you know, at my peak was, you know, between 215, 212, 209 to like 220. That's my body weight. So I was up to like 240. So it was going to be a big, because at that era was it was actually the Dorian Yates, Ronnie Coleman being a much bigger bodybuilder. I came into that show, you know, getting ready for the New York Pro, herniated a disc in my neck. My whole right side went paralyzed. And I just basically said, I'm done. I can't compete no more. And I said, what am I going to do with myself? And, you know, I was doing a lot of personal training. I was doing personal consultation, nutritional consultation which was then called Nutritionalysis and Apex. But I was actually doing my own diets and helping people. And I started selling supplements. So when I started selling these supplements, I said, wow, I'm selling more supplements than I am doing personal training.
And what brand of supplements were you selling then?
I was selling all different brands. You know, I can't even really remember a lot of the brands. I was selling the Apex brand, which is the brand that came with this Nutritionalysis. But then I was also selling other brands. I was selling Metrex. I was selling EAS. I was selling different brands that I felt they were cool brands to sell. And, you know, I said to myself, like when I hurt myself, I said, you know what? I'm going to make my own brand. And people are like, you're not going to be able to do that. You know what these guys got behind them? They got big money. There's no way you're going to be able to do it. You know, and I just started going to manufacturers in New Jersey and then just, you know, learning about, you know, manufacturing, learning about products, learning about, supplements, which I've always believed in them and I've always taken them,
Mhm.
but I wanted to learn about how to make my own products. And
Yeah.
that's what I started doing. At the beginning, it really was where I was working out of my mom's house. Just to go back, when I did injure myself, I had a Weeder contract. I went back then through this divorce. It put me into personal bankruptcy. So I basically had nothing. So when people say it was easy, I moved back to my parents' house after being king, in my 20s into my early 30s, driving around in a Porsche and, living the lifestyle and having everything, to reverting back to like saying, okay, selling everything, moving back to my parents, taking every dime that I had and investing in Gaspari Nutrition.
Yeah. I think it's super interesting because you brought up a couple things that I wanted to talk about. One, you brought up like Metrex and EAS. EAS is no longer around anymore, and Metrex, I honestly don't even know what about Metrex. I haven't heard from them in forever. So I can't even tell you what they're doing, and I do this for a living. So, But your brand is still here and alive, and your brand's been through a roller coaster of a ride over the last several years, which we'll get into. But I want to go back, let's talk about the real life situations. You talk about you went from everything to nothing. You had a divorce that is never easy. What did you take away from that you applied to your life moving forward from that point in time?
Never take anything for granted.
Yeah.
That's one thing. Having gratitude on everything that you have, never making or thinking that you're better than anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
I believe everything I've had is through hard work, and dedication. I've always told people that, and, I never felt that I was better than anybody, more than just saying, I worked hard for what I got.
Sure.
From being a professional bodybuilder to, doing what I did with Gaspari Nutrition, it was always about, getting to the grindstone and working hard. I did learn when you live a certain lifestyle, to revert back is very hard. But, you just have to be able to grind. And as an entrepreneur, you can have highs in your life that you're, riding high and millions of dollars, to where you have to now save money and learn to, go back to basics and eat, canned beans to,
Sure.
I don't know about literally, but still, where you're really looking at the money where before you didn't.
Didn't care. Yeah. And I think in this industry, it's interesting because you see, if you scroll through, we're in a social media world, you scroll through Instagram, you see some of these brand owners just posing with Ferraris and all these different things that maybe give off the wrong perception of what it's like to be an entrepreneur in this space. Because not everybody it's not all rainbows and sunshine. To your point, there was probably a time when you were starting Gaspari that it was super hard. Did you ever question whether or not you made the right decision, or was there a point in time in your history where you thought maybe Gaspari wasn't going to make it?
Definitely. When I started Gaspari, just as you said, it was a dream and a passion to start this supplement line and make products that work. I really believed in helping, individuals like myself, because when I was in bodybuilding, I believe supplements really helped me, increase, say whatever it was, 5%, 10% to make myself better for competitions. And I wanted to help others. I wanted to help athletes. So when I started Gaspari, that was my passion, to make this thing work. And, reality was I was living in my parents' house, in my, early 30s. I was sitting there selling my cars. I had, like I said, a Porsche and, nice cars, Corvettes, and selling all those and buying a minivan that I lettered up. And that was my vehicle to go around locally to the gyms and stores to sell my brands.
Mm-hmm.
Just like I said, grinding and saying, you know what, I'm going to do this. And at one point, I had my business in my parents' house. I was running it out of my parents' house. Their basement was my office. Their two-car garage was my warehouse. So we're, starting the company, making it grow. And then something really terrible happened. Is my parents' house burned down.
Oh shit. Okay.
We had electrical fire. I lost everything I had in the house that was my product because it wasn't insured. It ended up being around, to me, it was a ton of money. When I started, it was about $50,000 in product.
Yeah.
To me, it was the end of the world. I had to then go live at my brother's house, basically couch surfed because I had nowhere to live. And I started their business. I started the business in his basement that was an unfinished business in his cold, dreary basement. I had an outdoor garage. I live in New Jersey where I was packing boxes in the snow, having deliveries come in. You know, it was funny because I lived in a residential street. I have an 18-wheeler come down. The 18-wheeler would take down the telephone wires. I'd have the police there because people called it, you know, the police on me. You know, I was just trying to run this business. So, and I was at a point where it was really, really difficult. And I had a girlfriend at the time, you know, after my divorce, and a girlfriend that basically was like, you know, why don't you get into something else? So I tried to become an insurance agent. I was going to sell insurance. So I went to study the test to sell insurance, and I actually passed it. And I went out to sell. It was actually mortgage insurance. It was something where if you die, your insurance gets paid. Your mortgage gets paid if you die. So you're safe. So I was selling this. So I passed the test. I went out to sell it. I'm in a suit and I'm going to sell. And I ended up that day selling like 5 accounts. I went back and I go to the guy. I said, hey, good news. I sold 5, insurance policies. Bad news, I quit. I go, I'm not doing this.
Yeah.
There's no way I'm doing this. And I went back to the grind and saying, you know what? This is my passion. This is what I want to do. And there's a lot of people to get to those moments. I remember being in this dingy, cold basement with a computer in there in the dark. And I just sat there and I said, if I throw enough shit against the wall, eventually it's going to stick.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. I said, if I stick to this, I'm going to do it. And, at the time, Labrada had his company already going.
Mm-hmm.
And, I would talk to Labrada and he goes, you can't give up. You got to keep going. And that's what I did. Like I said, I'm just going to keep this dream and I'm just going to keep this passion, what I believe in, and it's going to eventually work.
You're in a unique situation in that you competed competitively in bodybuilding. So you took supplements, you believed in supplements. You mentioned the extra 5 to 10% that supplements give people when they actually have a diet down and a workout routine. Then you went to become a business owner. Now, anybody who knows anything about business, like the number one goal in business is you have to make money, to keep the lights on, to pay the bills. How did you find it to try to balance between making effective formulas and products that actually help the consumer and the money? Because there are brands today in 2019 that just care about the money, and they're making really, really bad formulas. I'm happy to say that Gaspari is not one of those brands. You guys are actually making really good stuff. But how did you find that balance as somebody who believed in high-quality supplementation, but you also knew you had to make a paycheck to make this thing work?
Well, as you said, there is a fine line. There's a lot of times when I want to make a product that is so of high quality that if I made it, it costs you $100 to buy. And you can't do that. So you got to look at it and say, okay, this is what I want to do. What can I do to make this thing as best that I can,
right,
so it's affordable to the public, and still make enough margins to make money? And I would just work on making that product where, I want to make the Rolls Royce of products, but I know it's not going to sell. So maybe if I make, an Acura or, a car, I don't want to make like some cheap ass car. I want to make something that's in the middle, but still have a product that works, that when you take, it's effective. It's got, efficacious doses of ingredients. And it's just kind of like a fine line that you said, where you have to say to yourself, like, let me make sure this is of quality and efficacy, because if I believe it is, people will buy it. And even though I'm not making as much as my competitor that's maybe selling it cheaper and selling more, at a higher margin, I'm still going to sell it and I'm going to keep those sales going. And I believe that formula has worked because through all the ups and downs Gaspari's been through, whenever the brand's there, people can't say anything saying, well, it's a crap brand. They don't say that. They always say, it's a brand of high quality. As you said, I've used the brand. We were very, we've done a lot of stuff. We were very cutting edge. We were, we did things that no one has ever done, like in the industry. One of the best test boosters were Novadex XT that we actually did studies backing it up to show that it increased natural testosterone. We were the first to introduce cluster dextrins to the market when everyone was using Vitargo and, Carbolin. I found cluster dextrins that at one point people were saying like, oh, It's not going to sell. Now it's one of the mainstays
Yeah.
in the industry is cluster dextrins.
Yep.
So, I always look for the best products out there, new innovation. I was always looking for that. It's hard today because it's just,
it's a lot.
The industry is matured much more.
Mm-hmm.
So you look at things that, you look at things that you're trying to do, what's trending in the industry. We're looking at products right now. It's funny, like I saw already the collagen trend was starting to grow. Now, that wasn't in sports nutrition if you're talking about a year ago,
Mm-hmm.
but I already started looking at products like collagen because they say, this is very important. Like everyone's
Right.
low in collagen 1, 2, and 3. What kind of collagens to make? So we came up with bone broth because, I was just talking to one of my salesmen. He goes, we should just call it collagen. I'm like, but it's not collagen, it's bone broth.
Mm-hmm.
There's other benefits to bone broth that's not in collagen. That's
Sure.
just cowhide. It helps with the immune system. It helps with leaky gut syndrome. So I'm going to keep it as bone broth, even though my salesman is saying, hey, listen, I think it should be called collagen.
Yeah.
The people in the stores are saying call it collagen. I'm saying, but it's not just collagen. We're going to educate the consumer to let them know what the difference between bone broth, collagen, and collagen are, because there are big differences.
There's a huge difference.
And that's just one of the things that, I feel in my gut to do. Even though I'm told I should go there, I go there.
Sure.
It's
It's interesting because you and I both probably know what like the number one selling pre-workout is in brick and mortar. There's a particular brand out there I'm not going to mention on the podcast, but it's not a good product. Like I'll just hands down say it. I'll say it. It's not a good product. When you see consumers buy this at the rates that they do and the sales reps push it because the margins are so positive for the retail outlets, like as a brand owner who actually cares about what the consumer is putting inside their body, what do you think about when brands are able to do this and consumers just don't care and they continually consume and purchase these products?
Again, I just, like I said, my hat's off to them. It's just not what I'm about. What I'm about is making something, different,
Mm-hmm.
something of high quality, something I feel that works. When we were making Super Pump, what was happening was Jack 3D became really big.
Yep.
And, they were talking about micro ingredients. There's no such thing as micro ingredients. Whether you have an efficacious dose of, leucine, creatine, beta-alanine, you have to have certain doses that clinical studies show.
Right.
They were taking a product, putting DMAA in the product with caffeine. People were getting hyped up on it and saying, microdoses of all these other ingredients, and this product's going to work. And what people were feeling was the stimulant effect.
Yeah.
I was still trying to sell, efficacious doses of carnitine, leucine, and maybe I was wrong because, their sales superseded mine, but I still believed I'm following what I'm doing. Even Super Pump, that's a legacy SKU that's close to 20 years old.
Yeah.
I still sell pretty good quantities of it. Is it the leading pre-workout? It's not. So when we made that product, we wanted to make sure it had efficacious doses of the ingredients. It wasn't just a pre-workout with stimulants in it. It was much more.
Mm-hmm.
We had leucine in it with efficacious doses, carnitine in it, creatine. So it was something, that when you took it, you felt it in your
Right.
workout. You recovered from it. So that's what that was the product, what it was about.
I do remember distinctly when Jack 3D came out. I was a user of that product, and the scoop size very small. To your point, when they kept saying microdosing, and then, but it also caused me to purchase your product, Super Pump. So I want to talk about like the popularity of the pre-workout category from No Explode to Jack 3D to Super Pump. Like, do you think the Jack 3D sales actually helped Super Pump increase their sales as well when it brought more new users into this pre-workout category, which was relatively still new to sports nutrition?
I don't think it helped it because at the point, what they did is they reset the price points on a pre-workout because at the time we had NO Explode and Super Pump.
Mm-hmm.
They were the two leading pre-workouts, and the amount I was selling a Super Pump was just astronomical.
Sure.
I was the number 2, number 1 pre-workout with NO Explode.
Did you, and you guys, you had the bigger scoops. NO Explode also had a bigger serving size as well,
Yes.
right? And then Jack came in with like a third of what you guys were doing.
Well, because what they did is they just spritzed in the ingredients of like, they put a little bit of creatine, a little bit of arginine, a little bit of, whatever, beta-alanine, so you felt tingly.
Right.
And then what they did is they dosed it up with DMAA and caffeine. So what you were taking is basically DMAA and caffeine. Now, people are getting good workouts off of it because of the stimulant effect. And I think it's changed the market tremendously.
Yeah.
Because now everyone is based off high stim.
Yeah.
It also changed the price point that I talked about earlier. There was a set price point on, say, an NO Explode and Super Pump. They were $10 to $15 cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
What that did is it just changed the market, that people were like, well, I'll buy this cheaper because I feel it. And, you know, because of it hard to educate the consumers, they went for the product that they felt. And it's still like that. People go on feel, people go on taste. If you have those two things, it's going to sell.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, and you mentioned like it was hard to educate people because all you had back then was magazines and DVDs. You didn't have this thing really called the social media world that we live into now, that you have more of an outlet to educate consumers and educate people on what you're doing. But Jacked, as popular as it was, obviously there was a lot of bad that came with it too, and people there. You look at what happened to the leadership team at USP Labs, they're like no longer in business because of all the stuff from back. That was a crazy time in sports nutrition with Jack 3D, Oxy Elite, Craze, like all these tainted supplements that came through. When that was happening in the industry, like you and I both, I think, are in the same breath. Like we don't want bad things to happen in this industry. Like we want to make sure that this industry is bringing people up. But as a business owner, when these bad things happen, like what do you think about? What do you like tell your team as you guys move forward?
Well, first off, I mean, you know, stay the course. What we were doing is, when I made this company, was to make high quality products in efficacious doses and products that work to help others. You know, I really did believe that I was helping people. Mm-hmm. It wasn't all about money. And that's the problem. When it's just about money, then you get sidetracked to basically, you know, change what you really want to do.
Right.
To where you're just looking to look for that almighty dollar.
Yeah.
Almighty dollar. So I do believe in, like I said, looking at the quality of products. Of course, I'm not going to say I'm not doing this not to make money.
Oh, right.
I'm
Absolutely.
doing this to make a living. We all are. But I still believe in like integrity, quality, you know, innovation, all these things. That's what excites me. Mm-hmm. When I come up and find something, a discovery of something new that we can come and bring it to the market, that's very exciting to me. You know, to be able to sit there and get endless amounts of people, you know, writing to me, you know, DMing me saying, you know, I've used your product, it's changed my life. I feel like, I, like you said, you know, you bring back memories of when I first started lifting a weight and I used Super Pump. You know, a lot of pros tell me, you know, you motivated me, you know, and you inspired me to, you know, to go from, you know, this bodybuilder to becoming this entrepreneur. I mean, for me, it's pretty cool to be able to be this person that helps others. Yeah. Where, you know, not only in the bodybuilding world, but also, you know, people that say, you know, if you've inspired me to never give up. And that's what you're about. It's always about never giving up. And like I said, I don't know if it's, you know, God has handed me something where I have to like, you know, I have to have this, you know, lessons that I have to then pass over to other people. But I've been through some hard times, good times. You know, and like I said, the one thing I've learned is always be gracious, you know, have gratitude of everything that you have.
So this is it. The new flavor is in production as we speak. We've been hyped about this for months and the time is finally here. So let's go check it out. In here. This is it. Galaxy Burst. This flavor has a burst of candy with a hint of tart, leaving your taste buds begging for more. It's fruity and creamy, yet sweet and tangy. After months of testing and formulation, this galactic flavor is sure to take over the galaxy. Now let's give it a try. So good.
Hey,
Oh, time to go.
We are in Nashville.
Definitely one of our favorite shows to do.
The community we built online to be that we are the guys that hit home runs. It's mail time!
Bigger canister,
CG approved.
You mentioned too that Jack took the price point down $10, $15, and now in 2019, it seems like the race to the bottom is more prevalent than ever before. Who can offer the next pre-workout at the cheapest price to get consumers in? We've had a lot of discussion at FI about how we don't think it's good for the industry to that race to the bottom. There's not longevity with that in terms of retail outlets. You guys have maintained your pricing integrity and your price point with your MAP prices, et cetera. Were you ever sort of tempted to go along with the trends and lower your prices and not to say you whore them out, but to go against kind of what you initially believed in, just to try to keep pace with what other people were doing in the space?
I mean, when you're talking about MAP pricing, that's a whole animal in itself, because we have a legacy brand. I'm constantly policing, pricing that's out there with third-party Amazon sellers,
right,
and try to keep them, price integrity. When you're saying cheapening products to sell to the public, it's really, really hard that I don't want to do it. So I stick to my guns. You got to have a happy medium. Mm-hmm. You're going to have to try to be within price range to be able to sell. Because if you're way off, you're not going to sell. Like I said, if you're selling the Rolls Royce, like I see some guys doing, you're only going to sell to that small, minute group. You got to try to be in the middle to try to get the masses.
Right.
And that's what we try to do with Gaspari. Have I ever been tempted? Yes, we've all been tempted to do things like that. But then I always believe in the repercussions of what you're going to do when you come up with that reputation.
Sure.
There are brands that are known for being really cheap.
Mm-hmm.
And now, although they're cheap and people are buying them, you have a certain genre of people that are going to buy that brand. But they don't look at that brand as being quality.
Yeah.
I rather, like I said, suffer, not get those sales from those people that are just driven by price.
Yeah.
And go more on people that are looking for perceived quality.
Mm-hmm. I find it super fascinating. When we started this conversation, you talked about how you actually physically went to manufacturers to make your products. Like you had to go out and seek out manufacturers. Nowadays, manufacturers are taking out ads on Facebook, letting people know that they can produce supplements for them so they can start a supplement from their basement, like from their parents' basement if they want to. Like the barrier to entry today in sports nutrition is extremely low. So as when you guys started, Gaspari was just such a huge name, and then suddenly this influx of new brands started coming into the industry. Some cool, some not so cool, but now you had a bigger pool of competition that you're going against.
Yeah.
Did that bother you that the barrier to entry became so low that literally anybody with, say, $10,000, $15,000 could start a brand if they could build a website, and next thing you know, they're a competitor of yours?
Well, when you say, does it bother me? Of course it bothers me, because even though they may not be some big brand, they're chipping away at the sales of your brand. So yeah, that brand that's like a $10,000, $15,000 brand is getting 5 buyers buying product that they were buying your brand.
Right.
Another guy that's a little bitter is getting 10 people that are buying your brand. What I do realistically see is the margins that are made in this industry are much lower.
Mm-hmm.
What I used to make was way higher. I would say double in margins.
Sure.
What I was able to make. When I was making double in margins, I was living high. I had the Lamborghinis and the Ferraris, and I look at it now, having athletes, it's totally changed. Like you can't spend, or used to see Muscle Tech with, a slew of athletes from Ronnie Coleman to Jay Cutler to, Phil Heath. And you don't see that anymore because the margins are much smaller. You can't do it. And now you have someone like a Jay Cutler or Phil Heath making their own brand.
Right.
Thinking they can do it. It's not that easy, as they can see.
Mm-hmm.
It's not always about having high social media followers, as as you can see as well. There's guys that have 1 million followers and still not having a top brand.
Right.
But they still take a piece of the market. Am I happy about these people that are coming into the market? No. But is it reality? Yes. What can you do? You can still make a quality brand. You can segment your channels to. It used to be, just to say, it used to be you can be top in every channel.
Sure.
Now you've got to be selective in the channels that you're in. and be good in those channels. Before you could be the number one in GNC, Vitamin Shop, Europa, gyms, stores, and you were the number one. Now it's like you could be a GNC brand, but you're really not a Vitamin Shop brand.
Yeah.
You could be a brick and mortar brand, but not really be in GNC. So you got to kind of pick your poison or your channels of where you're going to go and focus on those channels.
Yeah.
To grow a brand. So that also has changed when you had so many competitors.
Yeah.
I remember I'm good friends with Eric Hillman from Europa. He used to say, the supplement industry is recession proof. Well, that's not true anymore because you have so many players in it feeling that they can make money. I'm going to become a supplement owner. Rich Gaspari did it.
Yeah.
They don't know the suffering. I went in 5 years and almost being broke and until it made it. But there are people in there that just feel they can do it. They're selling it, they sell their brand on Amazon, learning about search engine optimization, getting their names out there and they're selling a brand.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, barrier to entry is low, and people can do it. I mean, you can start a supplement company tomorrow with $10,000 if you're good at all the things that you need to be good at, and you're good at relationship building. But it's not easy, to your point, even though the barrier to entry is low. Walk me through, Rich, the decision to partner with Jared Wheat, and you when you were with Jared Wheat High Tech. For those that listening that aren't sure who he is, like what led to that decision to do that, and then ultimately we'll talk about you bringing everything back under your umbrella.
Okay. Well, first off, let's say that, to get to Jared Wheat, before Jared Wheat, there was Gaspari, the big Gaspari that, that we were running, that we were close to $95 million in gross sales that I was doing. Unfortunately, what happened, I went through a divorce that, distracted me in a big way.
Right.
But then it was, when I say Gaspari, died death by 1,000 cuts. What happened is besides going through a divorce, I had one of my two inner guys that actually were, ended up going against me.
Sure.
So I had 2 lawsuits with two of my employees. I had a lawsuit with an outside patent troll that I don't want to mention his name, but you probably know who he is.
Sure.
A scumbag patent troll that is still out there, that I had a war with him. So I had a divorce, a war with a patent troll. I had lawsuits with 2 of my employees that were one of my high executives. You were mentioning about, like when they said I was gone and, I lost control of the company and all these things. But, even Jared, when we were doing this together, he did give me the one thing I said is we are separate. We are separate. Gaspari is separate. I had a separate office. I had separate accounting. I had a lot of things we kept separate. Some things we intertwined, but a lot of stuff we did keep separate.
Sure.
Where he wanted to put it together, and I was like, no, we're separate.
Yep.
And he didn't like that very much. But like I said, we clashed in that way.
Yeah.
And like you said, I just said I'm not giving up on this company. And it got to the point where, he was going through his own issues, and I felt, it was an opportunity for me to say, hey, let me buy you out.
Sure.
And I was able to do that, and that's where we're still in the process now of doing it.
Well, like I was mentioning, I think it says a lot about you as a person in terms of like back against the wall, facing adversity. For everybody out there that thinks like you've had it easy and that you've been driving Ferraris all these years. No, I mean, you struggled a bit, man. I mean, you know what it's like to quote unquote sort of hit rock bottom within business. I mean, to the point where you almost lost your baby, but you're able to get it back. And it's exciting now because, we struck up a friendship and we're working with you guys on some things. And what I see that you guys are coming out with is really exciting stuff. Like you mentioned, you are putting the pulse back into the heart of Gaspari through what you envision this brand to be. And I'll say it, while it was with Jared, it kind of lost its luster. I mean, it was there, but it wasn't what it should be. And I think there's gonna be 2 things moving forward. One, you guys have this new innovation pipeline that we can talk about, which is super exciting. But 2, as part of that, Jared buying it, he took some of the assets from Gaspari in terms of some of the look of products. So consumers may go to a store shelf now and see a product that traditionally was a Gaspari product. It looks exactly like your product, but it's not. It's Blackstone or it's a Jared Wheat thing. So I just want to talk about that real quick. Like, what's your plan on, if any, on maybe addressing the misconception of packaging to a consumer who thinks maybe this is a Gaspari product when it's actually not. They just have the look and feel of it.
Well, if you know Jared's MO, he's done it with Syntrax. He's copied the packaging. It looks exactly like a Syntrax product. It's a different, almost exact same name, same packaging, just with his logo. Right. So, I mean, that's what Jared's always done. You know, that's, you know, like I said, he's an opportunist that looks at things like that. And I put my hats off, and that's what he's been able to do.
Right.
And he's taken advantage of those things. Has he taken advantage of Gaspari in certain ways? Yes, he has. He's taken some of the products that he felt were great products, and he's taken them. And I basically said, you know what? Take them.
Sure.
I don't care. I'll come up with new stuff. The one thing I'm good at is I will come up with innovation and new stuff. I don't need products like I said, a lot of the products they have that he's been successful with are knockoffs of other brands or
100%.
copies, which is fine. There's a lot of brands. Dymatize did that and became very successful. That's not what I'm about.
Yeah.
So when I lost products, getting the brand back, I was all about, you know what? It's going to be a rocky road, but if I can continue just being able to be innovative and do the things that I did when I first started this company will come back to life and be stronger. And that's what we're slowly doing. We're climbing out of the hole and growing the brand back. And actually people now are starting to talk like, hey, I heard of that brand. And, you know, especially young millennials that, you know, when the brand was at its best, they were like 12 years old. Now they're, 22 years old. And they're like, I didn't hear of this brand, but now I just heard of this brand. And they're starting to use the products. So it's all good. Like I said, you will hear more of me. I ain't going nowhere.
Yeah.
I'm going to grow this thing. Like I said, we are only at the beginning stages of where we're going to be with Gaspari.
It's super cool because, I mean, Troy Johnson, who works with you, and he's a good friend of mine, but like you guys are like boots on the ground. You're going out and you're doing like road shows. You're physically going into retailers and saying that exact same thing. Like, I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. By the way, here's all these kick-ass new products we have coming out. We have Proven Egg, which is something that Jared Wheat would never have launched underneath your brand. Not a chance.
Never.
When it was overseas, never would have launched it. It's a really cool product. It's a very good product. I've gotten to try it. I love it. Glycofuse, we just talked about that. You did a thing on your Instagram for it. You guys changed the formula a little bit, but not in a bad way, using Carb 10 and cholesterol dextrin, which is still great and fantastic. But you talked about the bone broth. That's something that, wouldn't have gotten released. I think traditionally most people probably think Gaspari wouldn't release a bone broth product to begin with. But this is the way you're thinking here in 2019. So share with the listeners and the people watching, like, what is not necessarily what's in the innovation pipeline, but what's your way of thinking as you move forward and try to bring Gaspari back to being a dominant brand in this space that's cluttered with so much competition?
Well, what you just said is like, when I was boxed in with Jared to, come up with just, hardcore products, and Gaspari changed where it evolved. When I first came out, I was known for pro hormones. Yeah. I was known for, all these different products. And I said, I would, fight with Jared saying, that's not what Gaspari is anymore. Gaspari has become more of a fitness brand, a lifestyle brand. And that's what I believe in. I believe Gaspari should be built more towards a lifestyle brand.
Sure.
When we came up with bone broth, what I saw is like, I'm looking at different collagens. There's a benefit to, I saw the trends in collagens. I believed in collagens. And I said, you know what? I'm going to come up with a collagen. Like I said, we're talking about Troy we were just having this friendly dispute about, we should call it collagen. I said, no, Troy, we should call it bone broth.
Yeah.
Even though you're telling me other people are saying, they don't recognize it, there's more benefits to bone broth than there is collagen. So let's educate the consumer and why this is better and why we're using this.
Yep.
When you talked about egg protein, I looked for something different because I was like, you know what? There's so much whey protein. There's so much, that's all there was. Vegan protein now, pea protein. I said, the best protein ever used was egg protein. How can I find egg protein? I ended up looking for it and I said, shoot, I saw the only one that did it was 5% with this protein crystals or egg crystals. And I looked at it, I said, you know what? I think I could do it better. I looked at the flavoring I don't know if you know this, when you flavor egg protein, it's a very salty protein.
Yeah.
So we tried to do vanilla. It did not taste good. We did like this chocolate. So it ended up being this salted chocolate. Tastes amazing. Then I said, what else could be a salted flavor that tastes good? Salted caramel.
Yep.
So we came up with that flavor. We're coming up with chocolate peanut butter. We're going to call it Richie's Peanut Butter Cup.
Right.
So we're going to do that.
Yeah, I like that.
So we're coming up with new products. With the egg, we're using stevia instead of sucralose.
Mm-hmm.
We're using all natural colors. New product that we just launched just this week. We just launched proven EAAs.
Oh, that's right. Yep.
We're using fermented vegan BCAAs. All natural colors. When I was with the other company, he would love using artificial dyes. I'm like, I don't want to use artificial dyes.
Right.
I was forced to use them. So we stopped using those. We're using more natural coloring. I wanted to use stevia in the proven EAAs. It just didn't flavor right.
Right.
So we started using some sucralose, because I had some people say, why did you do that? But when you're asking what the direction of Gaspari, it's going to be more of a lifestyle brand. We are going to look for edginess, in the brand itself to come up with some cool stuff.
Right.
But a lot of it's going to be just, what's out there. We're coming up with an omega-3 that has the highest EPA and DHA than any, omega-3 on the market. It's like
awesome.
70%.
That's great.
So that's something I would use.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It's got an enteric coating, so it bypasses the stomach to get utilized in the small intestine. Now it's just an omega-3, but would that something my former partner would do? No.
Right.
So these are things that we're looking for in Gaspari that I feel are just that little bit above what other competitors do.
You say it's just an omega-3, but it's one of those supplements that if you're not sure what to take, it should be one of the top 5 supplements that people take every day.
Yes.
So just an omega-3 is just something you should be taking daily. I look, back at what you guys were and what made you big. And you mentioned the hardcore, the pro hormones. If you told someone buying those pro hormones 10, 15 years ago that you were going to come out with a stevia flavored X or bone broth, they would have laughed you out of the store because that wasn't what you did. And it's you mentioned you want to bring edginess into the brand. I'm super excited to see how you guys do that, because you can do it and still with natural products. There's things out there you can bring it in a lot of different ways. And I think you guys are doing the right things. And do you guys have a year goal, 5-year goals in terms of because ultimately, I think in your head, you want to get back to where you once were, and then being realistic, you probably know it's going to be a slow climb to get there. But so far, what's been the feedback from retailers, from consumers on the new stuff that you guys are bringing to market since you've taken the company back under your complete control?
I think everyone has been ecstatic that I have been in control. Let me tell you something. In that transition period to buy the company, you understand, I asked Jared that I want to buy him out last March. It's not this March, but the following March. I didn't buy the company till August. So that period was kind of like the company was just kind of at a standstill and slowly just going down.
Mm-hmm.
Then finally, when I got the company, I'm going to tell you, I have investors, but a lot of it is the company's building itself through the profits that we're making. It's not someone infusing cash into the business. So this is my baby that we're doing it hardcore, grinding, going, like you said, going to the accounts that I knew and saying, hey, I'm here. I'm still here. This is my brand. We did a lot together in the past. I would really appreciate if you look at me again to take me back.
Yeah.
And these guys they're doing it. They're taking me back. And, I'm grateful to have guys like Troy that's been on my team for over 10 years. He saw the road where he was riding high to where he was like nothing. And now he sees that, wow, this brand's really going to grow.
Yep.
Him and I, because he's out in the streets, he's out there looking what the brick and mortar sell. And he looks at a lot of stuff that I go, you know what, Troy, we're not doing that. The DMA, the DMHAs. I said, we're not doing that.
Right.
We'll come up with a better way of getting back to market. And, we're doing it little by little. We're listening. What you said is, how are we going to do that? Relationships are number one.
Yep.
And also listening to the consumer, looking at trends. And if you could do that thing, if you could, I don't want to be in my ivory tower. I am now out there, learning the markets, the U.S. market, but I'm learning the global market.
Yeah.
This company is now still in countries all over the world. We're getting right now in China. We're in Europe, we're in Australia, we're in New Zealand, we're in Brazil, we're in Latin America. So this company is, And each one of those markets are different. And I've been in each one of those markets to learn how to sell products. Middle East, all other, way you have to do business. So I'm growing this business, and I'm out there seeing every one of these areas that we're doing sales.
Right. I love it. You called Gaspari a legacy brand, but you are, but you aren't. Because when I think traditional legacy brands, they're the ones that are sitting back with their feet up, just kind of coasting, not doing anything in terms of innovation. They're not going out visiting retailers. But here you are, a 20-year-old company. You are out and about visiting retailers. You're part of the innovation process. And you mentioned the key thing, listening and doing a consumer-first approach to running your business, which I think is amazing because that's the way it should be. And what I'm really excited about for you, Rich, is like your baby son, when he comes into the world, he's going to be able to see his dad like go back and like bust ass, teach him what hard work truly is, because it's not going to be easy. You know that. It's going to be hard work, and you're going to be able to show him that, show your stepson that, show your family like, Dad still got it, man. We still got it, and we're going to go hard. So I'm super excited for you. I think what you guys are doing is phenomenal. I love the approach you're taking, and I love how you guys are really, you're doing the right thing. You're not taking shortcuts, which a lot of people in your shoes with that name could do it, and you're not doing it. So thank you from my standpoint, but thank you from the consumers too listening to this, because we all love brands like yours who actually give a shit what the consumers want, and you guys put them first.
No, thank you. I mean, like I said, I'm proud of my brand. It's something, and when you said about like my son, it's very emotional. It's like I'm gonna have a kid, and I want him to learn that he will have a silver spoon in his mouth, but I want him to appreciate that it's not that easy, and that his dad went through hardships, and a lot of kids don't have that, and I want them to learn from that, and that's really important for me with this brand. It's something that this is my baby. This is something, like I said, we started 22 years ago, and it went through all this, and like you said, I had people saying Gaspari's done. And I'm still, now people go, I'm not underestimating what Gaspari can do.
Yeah.
And when you see other competitors start to watch what we're doing, that's exciting, for me.
Exactly.
And, it's, I always say no one's going to outwork me. You may have more money, but no one's going to outwork me. I'm out there. I'll do whatever I have. And, I'm in my 50s. I'm not a, spring chicken. When I started, so I was in my 30s, and I'm still working hard. If you watch my videos on Instagram, I still training 5 days a week. It's part of my genre. It's like, I'm going to be who I am until I die. So I can't do it anymore.
Yeah. And you're still breeding champions. You just took home the Dallas Europa. So.
Oh yeah. Hide, when you talk about loyalty, Hide's been with me for 10 years.
Yeah. I remember him.
This guy started at 35. He's 45. When he started, I saw, this passion in him. Great guy. He worked with the company, never left the company, and he just won the Europa show. It's amazing. Came in shredded, the best shape of his life. And, he's getting ready for the Olympia. And, so we still have champions, in this company. It's much different now. Like I said, it's just become more of a social media,
right?
Digital marketing, trend. You're doing things like this, talking to guys like you on podcasts,
right?
Getting the word out to me is really important, because this is a way of just organically growing the brand back.
No, absolutely. And we'll do what we can, because like I said, we only work with brands in which we care about, that care about the consumer. So we're very selective on who we work on, and very selective on who we bring on this podcast, because the last thing I want is somebody who all they care about is the bottom line, not the consumer getting an opportunity to preach their gossip to the fan base, and that's not what I'm about. So thank you, Rich. I appreciate you coming on. Looking forward to everything this year. Congratulations again on the future birth of your son, and I'll probably be seeing you in Vegas, I'm sure.
Definitely, I'll be there.
I told you there was a good story. Rich takes us through everything in this thing, man. This stuff is the stuff that you don't know. If you're not within this industry, you don't know these things. Like, you probably have no idea that Rich Gaspari and Gaspari Nutrition damn near died because of bankruptcy, because of internal struggles through the, through internal employment, through CFO problems, through divorce. These are things that the public doesn't know unless they listen to the Be Informed Live Fit podcast. And really the idea is like, listen, Rich is a normal human being just like everybody else. He has gone through it all. And then for me, as a business owner, as a human being, I can empathize with that. I can't imagine driving around in Ferraris and Porsches to having everything taken away from me and have nothing, having to sell my company to some foreign investor in which I have to buy my way back into the company to have say, and then to have to take that company to somebody like Jared Weed at High Tech and not beg but ask, because you didn't have many options to take the company back because Rich was trying to save that company. And it's all come full circle. Rich buys the company back from Jared Wheat. Him and team rebuilding this brand through unique innovation that is not typical of Gaspari Nutrition, bone broth, egg protein. That never would have happened back in 2005. Never. But it's happening in 2019 because the writing's on the wall. They understand that they need to adjust, adapt, and change with the times, something that legacy brands don't do. So although he refers to himself as a legacy brand, he's referring to himself as a legacy brand because he's 20 plus years old, but they're not acting like one. They're acting like a startup, and I think that's going to be super beneficial for Gaspari. So I hope we can work more with Rich and his team. I very much enjoy their products. GlycoFuse, the mix between cluster dextrin and Carb 10 is great. I use it. I use it today for my carb source. They have proven EAAs coming out with his fermented EAAs. I mean, they have just so much cool stuff coming out. So support Gaspari Nutrition. Make sure if you guys have never used them before, because maybe you're younger or you're new to the supplement world, check them out. Follow them on Facebook. Follow them on Instagram. Check them out on social. Check out their products and support the brand if you will. Like I said, I'm a fan of them, and hopefully we get an opportunity to work more with them in the future. Appreciate you guys and girls tuning into this podcast. Again, if it's your first time listening, thank you so much. Don't feel obligated to do so, but hit that subscribe button if you like it. Stay up to date with all new podcast launches. Hear from us at F5 if you're watching via iTunes, Spotify, watching via YouTube. Again, that subscribe button. If you have an opportunity to leave a comment or a review, it helps out the algorithm so more people can discover the Be Informed Live Fit podcast. And then we're on social media as well. Obviously, we're on Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, and Twitter. I am Fitness Informant founder and CEO Ryan Buckeye. This is the Be Informed Live Fit podcast. As always, we hope you are informed, you need to live fit. Hang loose. Until next week, take care.